Snake, an all-time classic. There's thousands of versions and variations of the game, with Nokia's built-in Snake 2 being an icon. There's only one problem: it's 2D. But someone fixed that. Enter AxySnake. A big problem for early 2000s, as a trend back then was to transform 2D games into 3D games. Often with mixed results, and that's what AxySnake was going for. It was developed by Axisoft and released as shareware in 2001. If you looked for free games or bought software/gaming magazines, there is a big chance you stumbled upon this game, or a few others by the same creators. And I absolutely loved it, and played the crap out of the free version. AxySnake is a pretty basic and simple game. You can check the help section from the main menu, but it's nothing more than eat good things and don't eat bad things. Well, there's actually a bit more detailed info in the game's HTML readme, like scoring systems, so you can check that if you want to. Prior to starting a new game, you can pay a visit to the options menu and adjust things like game speed, sound and music volume, controls, and violence. You know, a standard feature of Snake games. Violence! Yeah, let's leave this one on for now, shall we? But okay, let's move on to the game itself. You can choose between two quote-unquote game modes: close and distant camera, and 3 sets of levels for each one, with only the first ones being playable in the shareware version. After that, you get to choose one of 3 snakes. They play all the same, but only differ in visuals and sound. And off you go! To the forest! You'll quickly realize what AxySnake's idea of updating the gameplay formula is. And that is by giving the player full control of the snake instead of confining them to 4 directions and a grid. You can turn left and right and speed up. The goal is pretty simple: eat fruit to grow. Grow enough and a little robot will drop a key. Eat the key to open up the exit and continue your adventure. It seems simple enough until you start playing it and realize that the camera doesn't really help you all that much, and kind of works as a counterbalance to the slower speed of the game and better control that you have. And that makes navigating and not running into your tail a little harder. Thankfully, that doesn't take away your life, just cuts off your tail. Similarly, bumping into walls, stumps, and eating rocks has the same effect. So, if those things don't kill you, what's stopping you from endlessly playing the level? Well, if you don't hurry, the monsters of the night will get ya! If you think to yourself, that's fucking terrifying, you're damn right it is. You have a strict time limit, and during its final quarter, the happy-go-lucky music swaps with an ominous, eerie track. The lights slowly darken and animalistic noises play from the distance. It's a surprisingly good way to rise up the tension. So yeah, that's your motivator for doing these levels as fast and as efficient as possible. Forest monsters. And that's pretty much it for the game. It's quite simple, but for its time it had good presentation and addicting gameplay. Not to mention a lot of charm. Swallowing up fruit and mushrooms one after another doesn't really get old, and the little sound bites that the snake does whenever you eat, bump into walls, or finish the level are adorable, and it just never gets old. And speaking of other stuff, The other game mode is just a distant camera, or more of a top-down camera, which has this much more classic Snake controls but still allows you to turn more or less freely. As a bonus, this mode has its own set of levels, so there's reason to check both of them out. After all these years, I still like it. And what's not to enjoy in what's essentially a game of Snake? The shareware version consists only of 2 sets of 5 levels, so 10 in total, but if you're just hungry for more, you can register it and unlock more levels, which also happen to feature things like power-ups and more enemy variety. But other than that, it's still just the same game. And yes, AxySoft's website is still up, you can download and register AxySnake there. Apparently last news is from around 2015, where they lowered the base price of all the games to $10. Although the online ordering form charges around $15 after currency exchange, so not so sure about the pricing there. But to be completely honest, AxySnake as a game is pretty good, but not $10 kind of great. We currently live in an era where $10 can get you a boatload of good games to choose from, so if you're curious about Axy, just check out the shareware version, as I cannot recommend buying the full thing, as you're not missing out on the full experience, really. And just like I said, you can easily download the shareware version of the game if you're curious and mess around with it for a couple of minutes, I guess. Surprisingly, it still runs perfectly fine on Windows 10, although there's no windowed mode and it's a little bit stretched as it never supported a widescreen, which is a standard nowadays. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. As a side note, the robot that drops the key in the game is from another AxySoft game called AxySnake, which itself is based off Xonix, an old MS-DOS game, which itself is based off the arcade game by Taito called Quicks. I might revisit AxySnake one day as well. As for now, thanks for watching.